Hey artists, today we are going to plan our mythical doors for our clay project. So on your plan, obviously include your name. And then for this, I want you to think of a theme. So for your theme for your door, it could be anything for like anything mythical, like fairy theme, dragon theme, under the sea themed. It could even be Minecraft theme, as long as we give enough details because this is a clay review unit. So my theme is going to be under the sea theme. And so first you want to start out with the shape of your door. Your door could be more curved, it could be more square, it could or rectangular. Mine's going to be kind of slightly pointed at the top. That's just what I chose. And so first we get that down. Then it's time to start adding the details. So I know around the sides of my door, I want to have rocks that I'm going to have to slip and score on. Keep in mind that any details you add on here when you're building your clay project, you're going to have to slip and score everything, even the small stuff. So just keep that in mind. And I'm also going to be having you use your Chromebooks if you need to look up any reference images. And what I want you to also do, let me zoom in a little bit more. I want you, like if it's applicable, do kind of like a wood kind of theme in the background, or a wood texture, I should say. And that just gives it a more door effect. And so I made lines. And then I'm just kind of making like little like wiggles with like a little other wiggle inside of them. And that kind of looks like wood grain. And that you can use your needle tool or your wooden skewer to incise those in. All right, and so now I'm going to make other details. And so I'm, usually a door has kind of like a mythical door has like a window. In place of my window, I'm actually going to put a captain's wheel. So I'm going to make that. Have those coming out. It's going to be kind of tedious to make, but it's gonna look awesome when it comes out. Then I also kind of want to have like an octopus arm coming like out of the door or underneath the door and kind of coming out. And so I'm gonna make kind of like that so it's overlapping a little bit. And so I'm gonna need to get a better eraser. And so I'm gonna erase all the stuff that's going on behind it and make my other octopus details. They're little suckers, kind of look like little Cheerios. There we go. And then I need to think about what I want my doorknob to look like. And I think I want to do a starfish, maybe with like a little pearl inside, or I could do a clam with a pearl inside. And then also under the sea, I think I'm going to have some seaweed or maybe some different types of coral on there. Just kind of going around, maybe going over Mr. Octopus. And also label everything. So now that I've labeled everything, I am going, you don't have to outline. I'm going to outline just because I think it looks nicer, because I think I want to keep this plan. It looks kind of cool. And then I also want you to color, because I want you to think through your color designs when we paint after, obviously, we make the clay. Right now we're going to start to roll out our slab. So when we get the clay today, have your plan somewhere near you so you know what you need to do. And so for rolling out the slab, we're gonna get a big chunk of clay. The slab you want to be about the thickness of your pinky at least. We don't want it to be too thin because then it gets too wobbly when you take it in and out of your bag, and then we could risk like ripping or breaking it. So I'm gonna roll out my clay. Notice I'm turning it and picking it up just so I can get an even surface, and also so I know that I can get it off the clay mat. All right, so now I'm looking at my picture, and now I'm just going to just draw this out. I'm not going to cut it out yet. Don't make it too large. We have limited space for everything. And then when I like my shape, I'm going to press down and cut it out. And then I'm going to lift that off just like a cookie. I'm going to look at the back, see if I like the back better. Front, nah, I like the front better. Kind of smooth everything out as you go. The smoother it is, it'll be easier to paint. All right, and so let me zoom in. So now what I think I'm gonna do before I start the rocks, you wanna kind of start back to front. So what I'm looking at first is the texture of my door. So I'm gonna take my, either my needle tool, or I have lots of different, they're like green or gray, they're incising tools, and they have different edges for different types of texture. Some have like a zigzag edge for if you need more of a serrated edge. I can use this one because this one is nice and straight. I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm just making lines. And remember, if you're ever unhappy with something, you can either kind of like smooth it, erase it, or you can start over. That's what I like about clay. All right, this one, little line right there. And then I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna make that little wood grain texture. If you're doing that, kind of make it look a little random, because in nature things are random. All right, and now I'm going to start to create the rocks that are going to go around my door. All right, so I've made my rocks, but I haven't slipped and scored them on. So if I were to put this in the kiln right now, all my rocks would just fall off. So remember, when you're attaching something, you absolutely have to slip and score. So I'm going to make my score marks on my rock, just crisscrosses. I'm going to make my score marks on my door. I did it on the side. And now I'm going to take my slip brush, put a little slip on, and then stick it, and then that forms the very strong bond. So I'm going to do that for all of my rocks. You're going to do it for everything. So now I'm going to start to make my my ship wheel. And so I learned this from a student a few years ago. If you make a slab and you cut out like a little section, and you roll it, and that makes a really nice coil. So there's a tip for that. For the octopus, instead of making like one big thick coil, I'm gonna make a slab, and then I'm gonna cut it out. All right, so I actually think I'm just about done. With the seaweed, I think that would be a little, it would get a little too cluttered. Plans change. We all know that, so that's okay. And so when you're putting it in your bag, like when we have to clean up, make sure you lay it flat and you're very gentle. You put it in and make sure you seal the bag, because like if you're still working on it, because if the bag is open, it's going to get too dried out and then you would have to start all over. So mine's pretty much done. So I'm actually going to take it out of the bag and put it in the kiln. So after it's in the kiln, then it'll be ready to paint. All right, my mythical door is out of the kiln. It's hard. It's ready to paint. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be painting on a piece of paper so the tables don't get too messy, and so your piece doesn't get too messy if you have like splotches on the table. And so today we're going to utilize our small brushes, and we're going to utilize our knowledge from our painting order and layering of detail unit to work from the background to the middle ground to the foreground, large to small detail, because we don't want to start painting like these little details in the foreground, because we're just probably going to get paint all over them if we do that. So you have to think about what's your background, what's your middle ground, and what's your foreground. So the background for me would be the rocks and the door, middle ground would be the wheel, and then foreground would be the octopus and the starfish with the pearl. So I only want you to get 3 or 4 colors at a time. Get little drops of paint because this is not a large area. And also think about mixing different colors that's not straight from the bottle, because then it just gives a more sophisticated effect. So as I'm painting this, I got like a ton of paint on the sides of the wheel, but that's okay because when it's dry, I'm going to go back and paint over that. And you're going to notice it dries pretty fast because the clay is very porous, which means it has lots of holes in it, and it sucks the water from the paint and goes right into the clay. But sometimes it's a little too juicy and we gotta wait a day or two for it to dry. And a good way to get in the cracks is to load up your brush with some water when your paint is already on your brush, and then the paint and the water just kind of soaks itself into those cracks. All right, so some of this is still pretty wet, so I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm gonna do the middle and the foreground. All right, and there is my mythical under the sea door. I'm pretty happy with it. Thanks for watching.